Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahawashi, Bahasham, Rakahakwadash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahawashi. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone who ruled and teach well. And peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. This is the brother Ra'aya coming at you with another lesson, and I'm going to start it off in Matthew 24, verse 14. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. And you know, this true gospel of Yahweh Bahasham Yahawashi, Yahweh being the true name of the Heavenly Father, and Yahawashi being the true name of His Son, has been preached, you know, mainly through the unicorn or the internet, you know. And if the Spirit is dealing with you, you know, you can clearly see that Yahweh Bahasham Yahawashi is dealing with GMS or Great Millstone, as well as the brothers that come in the spirit of GMS. Because, you know, while you have these other camps out here going to other countries and attempting to start camps, but getting tear gas thrown at them, you know, beginning with our apostles and elders, when they went on to YouTube back in 2007, what have you seen? Camps sprout up all over America or Babylon the Great. Camps sprout up in Canada, in the Caribbean, in South America, Europe, you know, Africa, the Philippines, Japan, etc., etc. And that same message or gospel being preached as a witness unto all the nations in the whole world. And then, as it said, and then shall the end come. All these end times prophecies are taking place, or in the process of taking place as we speak. And this age of the Gentiles, or the heathen nations, chiefly of Esau, Edom, the so-called white man ruling, is quickly coming to its end. And just as the elect of the nation of Israel consisting of you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, and you also have the Israelite foreigners who through the scattering and generations have come to look like these heathen nations can see it, you also have, you know, these heathens starting to see it. And especially the elites of these Edomites, you know, such as your Rothschilds, you know, your Rockefellers, who have spent billions upon billions, dare I say trillions of dollars, to hide the true identity of the Israelites from not only the Israelites, but from the world, because they know that once Israel would wake up and start calling upon their power, and especially when the prophets would be out prophesying that whatever heathen kingdom that would be ruling at the time would come to an end. And this brings me to this clip from Bible Stories 24 Hours YouTube channel titled Iran Reveals CIA and FBI are monitoring so-called black Israelites right now. And as we have to tell you people, we are not the black Hebrew Israelites. We are simply the Hebrew Israelites. Black and white are just social constructs to create a certain narrative. The Israelites consist of what? The so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, as well as I just said, the Israelite foreigners who will come looking like Edomites or so-called white people, Moabites or so-called Chinese people, etc., etc. And as we'll see in this clip, you know, it's being stated that the CIA and FBI are monitoring the Hebrew Israelites, and that this movement, really this great awakening, is causing a stir in the political, you know, and religious world, a complete shift in the way people perceive reality. And, you know, whether this information that Iran claimed that, you know, whether it's Iran that actually released this information or not, we know that the CIA and FBI have been monitoring the Israelites. Hey, when 9/11 took place, our apostles and elders were arrested in suspicion for being involved in it. which clearly they had no involvement in it. But that just goes to show that the powers that be have been monitoring this truth. And our apostles and elders have a testimony. It was either back in the 80s or the early 90s, where they said they were out preaching and they had the 12 tribes chart, and a limousine pulled up, and some Edomites in expensive suits got out and analyzed the sign for a minute and told our apostles and elders that, look, how did you find this out? We spent billions of dollars to hide this from you. So, hey, if they were spooking back then, how much more now when you've got so many Israelites waking up and claiming to be Israelites? And then what? You have the prophets out on the highways and byways preaching this word. But this is a fair use copyright disclaimer. I do not own any of the footage in this clip, nor do I stand to gain from it monetarily. It is simply for educational purposes. And I'm going to start it at the 29-minute and 26-second mark. And this video came out about a month ago, and I've been meaning to get on it, and other brothers have. But hey, with the recent information that's been coming out about how over in the UK, they're looking to find street preachers and throw them into prison for up to 2 years for offending people with their preaching, which we know that's mainly targeted at the Israelites. And then what? Donald Trump saying, homegrown American criminals should be sent to foreign prisons. We know the persecution and the famine of the word is right around the corner.
Whether Iran's allegations are entirely accurate remains to be seen. However, if even a portion of these claims is true, they point to a troubling reality: that the U.S. government continues to employ covert operations to control, discredit, and suppress movements that challenge established historical and social power structures. As the Black Israelite movement continues to expand, the tension between religious freedom and state control is likely to escalate, raising fundamental questions about the boundaries of government intervention in ideological and spiritual affairs. 4. Why?
And hey, anything Jake ever tried to start, was infiltrated and dismantled by these Edomites. Look at the Black Panther Party, for example, civil rights movements or anything like that. But those were carnal works of man. Jake tried to work within the system, politically and economically and physically, which, played right into Esau's hands. But this is a spiritual movement, and Esau has no way to counter it. But, best believe, these devils are working behind the scenes to try to dismantle this truth. This is Lamentations chapter 4. I'm going to read verses 18 to 19. They hunt our steps, that we cannot go into our streets. Our end is near. Our days are fulfilled, for our end is come. And like I said, these Edomites have hunted our steps in the past with these different movements Jake tried to start by infiltrating them and dismantling them. And now they are also hunting our steps behind the scenes with these different alphabet groups trying to find a way to counter and dismantle, this truth, which I believe it was, I believe it was Gamaliel that said it in Acts chapter 5. Hold on a second. Yeah, it was Gamaliel in Acts chapter 5, who was the, teacher of the Apostle Paul, who said, if this be of man, it can be stopped. But if this be of the Most High, no man can stop it. There's nothing you Edomites can do to stop the truth from going out. And when you finally do move on us, and there is the famine of the word, that's all through the will of the Most High as well, to fulfill prophecy. And that just means, for all intents and purposes, the elect have been sealed, and now the judgment can come. 19, our persecutors are swifter than the eagles of heaven. showing you that this is talking about the Edomites, because who uses the eagle as their symbol? Think of America with that bald eagle. They pursued us upon the mountains. Mountains can represent governments. They pursued us, especially in America and, and in different nations as well. Over in the UK, again, they're talking about sending aggressive street preachers to prison for up to 2 years. They laid wait for us in the wilderness. And, America is a wilderness, that valley of the shadow of death. And they are laying wait for us, setting up these different traps to spring upon us when the time is right. This is Psalms 64. I'm going to start at verse 1. And it says, "Prayer for deliverance from secret enemies. To the chief musician, a psalm of David. Hear my voice, O power, in my prayer. Preserve my life from the fear of the enemy. Hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked, from the insurrection of the workers of iniquity." And organizations like the CIA and FBI, are secret councils that work behind the scenes. And as that AI generated voice said in that clip, you've got these agencies who have used state power in the past to disrupt movements, who whet their tongues like a sword and bend their bows to shoot their arrows, even bitter words, coming with that persecution to demonize the word, which, calling us Black Hebrew Israelites, is an example of that creates a particular narrative out here, that they may shoot in secret at the perfect. Suddenly did they shoot at him and fear not. And with AI now and deep fakes, we're entering into some very uncharted territory. And, they've got thousands of hours of us out there preaching with our voices and our faces, to where they could just create a whole deep fake generated image of brothers saying and doing things they didn't say or do to persecute them and be justified in arresting them. And remember, back during 9/11, our apostles and elders were, arrested for suspicion of being involved with that event. And, I think it was back during that incident which took place at the Washington Monument, with those Catholic school kids chanting against that, or shouting against that Gadite, or so-called Native American man. And then you had HOI there with Chief Ephraim, in the midst, which, all that whole situation was found to be a setup. What do we see from that? I believe it was in Fox News and some other mainstream media agencies that they did a little expose on the Hebrew Israelites and took a clip completely out of context, where a brother looked like he pushed a Edomite woman down and said, "Look, this is a violent group." But when you look at the actual clip, the woman, got in the brother's face and laid hands on him, and, he shoved her to get her away. And, Esau, being clumsy, just fell over. But we've already seen examples of them, setting up that narrative to shoot at secret at the perfect. And it's only going to ramp up more and more as we get closer and closer to Esau's rulership coming to an end. Suddenly did they shoot at him and fear not. They encourage themselves in an evil matter. They commune of laying snares, laying traps privily. They say, "Who shall see them?" But the men of the Lord see them. Hence, while we're able to take this information and filter it through the scriptures to expose you devils, 2 Corinthians 2:11, lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices.
Iran believes the U.S. views Black Israelites as a threat. Iranian analysts argue that the U.S. government's scrutiny of the Black Israelite movement is not merely a matter of domestic surveillance, but a strategic effort to prevent a fundamental shift in religious, historical, and geopolitical narratives.
Hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked that shoot their words like arrows. That communed to lay snares privily and laid those traps secretly.
At the core of the movement is a radical assertion that African Americans and other people of color
Ratings, hyperlink.
are the true descendants of the biblical Israelites. This claim, if widely accepted, would challenge long-established religious traditions and power structures that have defined Western hegemony for centuries.
And it's already challenging it. You've got more and more people waking up to the fact that those people over in the Holy Land, the small hats, aren't the people of the Most High, which they are Amalekite Edomites. And people are, waking up to the fact that you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans are the children of Israel. Last year, Vladimir Putin opened up the historical vault and brought out a bunch of those icons from the Middle or Dark Ages, showing that a so-called Jesus looked like a so-called black man. The saints and the Israelites look like so-called Negroes. And he even said, "May I present to you the black Jesus," which, his name's not Jesus. His true name is Yahawashi. So with this gospel being preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, hey, it is manifesting the end and causing great shakeups and taking away these deceptions that Esau Edom, especially in the West, has set up, breaking his Western hegemony. This is Isaiah 25, verse 7. "And he will destroy in this mountain the face of the covering cast over all the people, and the veil that is spread over all nations," these lies and deceptions to hide the true identity of the Israelites and to hide his true identity and to discredit the Bible with his pseudosciences.
Iranian scholars suggest that the significance of this idea extends far beyond theology. It has the potential to undermine key political alliances, including the deeply entrenched relationship between the U.S. and Israel. From this perspective, the surveillance of black Israelites by American intelligence agencies is not about countering extremism, as often publicly claimed, but about maintaining ideological control over historical and religious narratives that have shaped Western dominance. One of the most profound reasons Iran believes the U.S. perceives the black Israelite movement as a threat is its potential to destabilize the theological legitimacy of mainstream Christianity and Judaism.
And I will remove off of this mountain the covering cast and the veil over the people.
The movement directly challenges the dominant religious framework that has positioned white or Middle Eastern Jews as the primary inheritors of biblical Israelite identity.
Which, like I just said, more and more people are waking up to the fact that they aren't the children of the Most High. And the scriptures further expose you for that fact as well. This is Ezekiel 36, verse 5. "Therefore, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, surely in the fire of my jealousy have I spoken against the residue of the heathen and against all Idumea," which is just the Greek way of saying Edom, "which have appointed my land into their possession with the joy of all their heart, with despiteful minds, to cast it out for a prey." And how did those Amalekite Edomites get that land into their possession? The groundwork was set with the Balfour Declaration after World War I, and then after World War II, with the help of the U.S. and the UN, the state of the 1948ers was set up. And then, was it saying Revelation 2, verse 9? "I know the blasphemies of them which say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan." Hey, you Idumeans just don't fulfill the prophecies when it comes to dealing with the children of Israel and what they would be going through during the last days.
If these teachings were to gain widespread recognition, Iranian researchers argue, they could significantly alter the credibility of religious institutions that have held authority over theological interpretations for centuries. Iranian analysts identify three major disruptions that could result from the growing acceptance of Black Israelite claims. First, Western Christianity, particularly in the United States and Europe, has long been intertwined with colonial expansion, missionary activity, and the construction of historical narratives that reinforce white European dominance. The assertion that African Americans, along with other Black and Indigenous peoples, are the true biblical Israelites directly undermines these foundational narratives. If this perspective were to gain mainstream traction, it could trigger a crisis of faith among many Christians, particularly among African Americans and other marginalized communities who have historically been alienated by traditional Christian teachings. A widespread embrace of Black Israelite teachings could also lead to mass departures from traditional Christian denominations, particularly those that have historically upheld racial hierarchies. Iranian scholars,
which we're already seeing, the Christian church, especially the Black Christian church, is seeing a large drop in numbers. You got a lot of so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans coming back to their identity and calling back on their power, Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. So this truth is truly triggering a crisis of faith. And that is a part of biblical prophecy, that there would be a great awakening in these last days. This is Hosea chapter 1, verse 10. Yet the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured nor numbered. And it shall come to pass that in the place where it was said unto them, ye are not my people. And this further cuts those Amalekite Edomites, because they've said for thousands of years, we've known we were the Israelites for thousands of years. But in scripture, it says, hey, in the land where it was said, ye are not my people, especially in the United States of America, you're Black, you're a Mexican, you're a nigger, all these bywords they've given us. There it shall be said unto them, ye are the sons of the living power. No, you are Yasharallah, the princes of the power, the true children of Israel. And it is triggering, again, that crisis of faith. And a lot of people, a lot of Israelites leaving, that plantation Christianity and no longer, staying upon Esau, Edom, and his structures. This is Isaiah chapter 10, verses 20 to 21. And it shall come to pass in that day that the remnant of Israel, which ultimately it's going to be that remnant, that elect number that's going to be saved, and such as are escaped of the house of Jacob shall no more again stay upon him that smote them. The elect leaving plantation Christianity or the ways and the philosophies of Esau, Edom, and his system, especially in America, and looking after the old paths of their forefathers, but shall stay upon Yahweh, the Holy One of Israel, in truth. The remnant shall return, even the remnant of Jacob, unto the mighty Yahweh, returning spiritually right now, and then that physical return when the elect are beamed up onto the chariots, and then what? Come back down to lay down order on this earth and return to the land of Israel.
suggest that this would weaken religious institutions that rely on Black congregants for financial and social influence.
They shall no longer stay upon him that smote them,
while also diminishing their capacity to shape political discourse through faith-based activism. As history has demonstrated, religious institutions have
New Orleans, this is your chance to witness the best wrestle live.
Have often played a key role in both legitimizing and challenging state power, making any significant shift in theological beliefs a matter of deep concern for governing bodies. Beyond Christianity, Iranian analysts argue that the Black Israelite movement poses an even more direct challenge to modern Jewish identity. The claim that African Americans and other Black people are the true biblical Israelites fundamentally questions the widely accepted historical narrative that links contemporary Jewish populations, primarily of European and Middle Eastern descent, to ancient Israel. If these claims were to gain legitimacy, Iranian researchers suggest, they could provoke intense theological debates and foster widespread skepticism regarding the historical claims of modern Jewish communities, particularly in relation to their ancestral ties to Israel. Given that Western support for Israel is largely justified through religious and historical connections to biblical Israel, any challenge to this narrative could have profound political consequences. Iran, which has long been critical of Israel, sees this as a potential vulnerability in U.S. foreign policy. If the legit...
That's it with that clip. But hey, there's some very damning information coming out in this video. And, regardless of the legitimacy of it or not, we know that these alphabet groups are watching after us and they are getting ready to make a move against us. Back in Psalm 64, that they may shoot in secret at the perfect. Suddenly do they shoot at him and fear not. They encourage themselves in an evil matter. They commune of laying snares privily. They say, who shall see them? Hey, Esau Edom is about to make a big move against us. So now more than ever, you sincere Akim and Akwat out there, hey, you should be doing everything you can to stay in the spirit and please Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai, so we can have that protective hedge over us when the devil comes down in great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time, as it says in Revelation 12, verse 12. But this is Isaiah 29. I'm going to read 18 to 21. And in that day, the last days, really the last seconds of the last days, which we're currently living in, when that great awakening would take place, where it would be said that you are not, where in the place where it was said, you are not the children of Israel, there shall it be said, you are the children of the living power. Shall the deaf hear the words of the book, and the eyes of the blind shall see out of obscurity and out of darkness. The spiritual eyes and ears of the children of Israel, chiefly the elect, being opened to the truth, and them no longer staying on the help of them that smote them. The meek shall increase their joy in Yahweh, and the poor among men shall rejoice in the Holy One of Israel. For the terrible one is brought to naught, and the scorner is consumed, and all that watch for iniquity are cut off. You're going to lose, Esau. You're going to get your little moment to come and persecute us, but ultimately, Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai is taking you down. And hey, you're being brought to naught spiritually right now with the men of the Lord, going into the gates of the nobles, as it says in Isaiah 13, and exposing you through the scriptures. And then physically, when Yahweh Shai makes his second coming, that make a man an offender for a word. Oh, that is hate speech. That's racist. That's sexist. That's against alphabet people. And lay a snare, the secret counsels of the wicked, shooting in secret at the perfect, and lay a snare for him that reproveth in the gate, and turn aside the just for a thing of naught. Now I'm going to close it out in 2 Esdras 16. I'm going to start at verse 70. For there shall be in every place and in the next cities a great insurrection upon those that fear the Lord. So this devil is coming after Israel, chiefly those who know they're Israelites. They shall be like madmen, sparing none, but still spoiling and destroying those that fear the Lord. For they shall waste and take away their goods and cast them out of their houses, which, as it says in Revelation 2, verse 10, the devil shall cast some of us into prison that we may be tried. But then shall they be known who are my chosen, and they shall be tried as gold in the fire. We're going to go through our hours of temptation, but however our lot falls, if we endure unto the end, not, forsaking our faith, but believing in Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai, we're going to go through that fire, as it says in Zechariah 13, and, be tried and refined. and not be burned up in that fire. You know, ultimately that nuclear fire when it hits America. Hear, O ye my beloved, saith Yahweh, behold, the days of trouble are at hand, but I will deliver you from the same. Be ye not afraid, neither doubt, for the Most High is your guide. Hey, endure all things like a good soldier of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai to the bitter end, and Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai, you know, will save you, and you will receive that crown. So that's it with this video. With this video, I hope you sincere Akim and Akwath were edified. Just keep strong. We are almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babal, Kwam Yasharallah, and until next time, Shalom.